Vet some. Stay in the fight.
Hello, America. Welcome back to VetSum. Brian Lynch here with Eric Nolan. He is a former corporal in your United States Marine Corps, representing 3rd Battalion, 6th Marines. Eric is an 0311. He did 4 years in the Marine Corps, deployed on the USS Bataan, and is proudly representing the UFC today on behalf of not only your United States Marine Corps, but the U.S. in general. Eric, thanks for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you on board.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
So it seems like a natural uh, uh, process to go from the Marine Corps to the UFC, but we all know that it wasn't. Tell us how you got there. Tell us about your transition first. You've been out for a couple of years. Were you fighting in the Corps? Were you on any of the boxing or the smoking teams at all?
No, so I actually took my first fight. It was 2 days before I actually got out of the Marine Corps. My last duty station was at the basic school. So I was a martial arts instructor there. And, I was just doing a lot of training and training, future officers in the Marine Corps. And, on the weekend, I got a little drunk and then I DM'd a fight promoter and I was like, hey, I'll fight anybody. This is my weight. Let's do it. And I was getting ready to transition out and start going to school. So, they hit me back up and they're like, yeah, we got you this opponent for this date. And it was like 2 days before I got out. So, went and fought. And then I, moved back home to New Jersey, started, was looking around gyms for a little bit, trying to figure out where my home was going to be. And then, also going to school full time. And then, I found my gym, my team, and we've been training ever since. And, I just kept taking fights, fight after fight after fight, opportunity after opportunity, just trying to get into the UFC. It's a goal I set when I first started the Marines. And like we'd all on the weekends go to Buffalo Wild Wings, watch the big fights and stuff like that. And I'm like, dude, well, I could do this. And I was like, why isn't there any other like military guys in here, like
Yeah.
representing the Ultimate Fighting Championship? Like it's the UFC, the best fighters of the world.
Yeah.
Marines are the best fighters in the world. Like, let's get somebody in there. And obviously there's been like onesies and twosies here and there, but like Brian Stan and there's been a couple others, but I'm right now it's just me. I'm the only
Right. So
only
how
Marine
did
right now.
how'd you do in that first fight?
I won. I had no like legit like gym training, like sparring or anything. It was just a lot. Did a lot of cardio, hitting the bag and rolling around with Marines, and I
Yeah.
had wrestling experience in the past, and that's kind of what led me to victory.
So when you were at Quantico, were you with the EI company that was working with the lieutenants at the basic school, or was it this? They used to call it line training and a few other things years ago when I was on active duty. But was there a specific name for that you were working with?
So I mean, when I first got there, I was just like a basic school instructor. Like I
Right.
would go over like for infantry stuff, like watch them throw grenades, teach them how to shoot the 240, stuff like that. And then they moved me to the Mace as a swimming instructor because they were just low on Marines and I had a higher swim call, so I was just going, just helping them out with that. And then next thing you know, I'm running the tab course, the MAI course, and then I started helping out with that. And then I got out.
Yeah. So
I actually,
how do you think your training there and the training that you're doing on your own prepped you for your fight? Because between the time you sent this text message and the time you fought was how long?
probably like 2 months.
2 months. So you had no professional training at all. You were relying on what you knew as a wrestler in whatever self-defense training that the Marine Corps taught you. How well prepared were you? Obviously you won, but what do you notice in the training that you're doing now that was different?
Oh well, I mean, the level I'm at now is just like astronomical to the level I was at when I first started. And it kind of humbled, like you kind of get humbled on your journey. Now, like I won that fight, but I had no business like winning that fight, if you know what I'm saying. That was just mentality. We're both the kid I fought was also inexperienced, so we're both inexperienced. And then as my career just kept going and the tougher the fights get, the more you win, the tougher the fights get. And
Right.
it's just completely different levels of training. Like you gotta spar. You're sparring guys that are way better than you when you first start. and you start catching up, and then jujitsu, boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, like wrestling, like there's so many different things that go into MMA, and you got to kind of like mesh it all together and make it your own. And then when you get to the higher levels, you got to train for a specific guy you're fighting. You gotta change a couple things that you normally don't do in your routine, and it's definitely a different ball game.
Have you stayed in the same weight class from day one, or have you moved?
No, I mean, yeah, I've stayed at the same weight class. I think my UFC debut though was a weight class up, because it was so short notice. But I'm a welterweight, 170, and I plan on staying at that weight.
How much time do you get, Eric, when you're when you're told in the MMA world? How much time do you get to prepare, like you say, because you study your opponent? How much of advance notice do you get so that you can learn that fighter's style, their background, that type of thing?
It all depends, really. My first UFC fight, I only had 3 days. I didn't really even study the guy. I watched like a couple clips, and then I was just like, all right, let's go. But sometimes you get like a month, sometimes 2 months, sometimes even three. Like, you never know. You could get anywhere between 5 days and 2.5 months, 3 months.
Right. Then how has that changed now that you've been involved for a while? How has your workout routine changed, and how has your prep time changed based on a year or two under your belt?
I mean, it's just a little more calculated, a little less uh here and there and all over the place. I was going to school full time a couple years ago, so it was just like I was mixing my training in from my class times and stuff like that, and
Right.
trying to pick my schedule out. And then like your schedule changes every semester, so every semester it was like a new regiment and something new, time wise, or like certain days I'd have to miss. And now it's more so, I'm in the UFC now, and I have more time to actually just like I create my own schedule now, like with my training, as it used to be like, no, I have to find training at certain times to get in there.
Right. Right. So you're not only training for yourself, but you're helping others as well, correct?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And how much time does that occupy of your day, or is it primarily spent on you prepping for your next fight?
Well, so right now I don't have a next fight. So now it's more so like, I'm doing my training to stay in shape and, develop skills. And then, obviously if there's a younger guy or a teammate that needs help with something, it's at the lower level. I'll sit there, I'll help them out, so it doesn't really, I mean, it's all day thing now. Like pretty much I live at the gym now,
Right.
morning practices, sometimes an afternoon lift, and then a night practice. So,
How does it work within the UFC? Do you have to get signed on for something? Are you allowed to explore other options for sponsors, or do you need to get signed in and then abide by the contract? Is it different for UFC fighters in the MMA world?
yeah, I believe so. I don't know the exact rules. I mean, I know I just gotta, I'm pretty sure I would just have to like check with them, make sure it's okay. But, I mean, as far as sponsorships goes, I got a sponsor. I have a sponsor that I've been with for a while now, and they've been a great help. But, I don't really explore those. I'm not really that known in the UFC to be getting like big sponsorship deals like that. So I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
really. The answer is I don't know.
Well, we'll get you there, pal. We'll get you there. That's part of the reason you're on here. So tell us about the call you got from Dana White or UFC. When did it happen? Where were you, and what prompted it?
I was actually at the gym, and it wasn't Dana White personally. It was my manager, and he was like, "Hey, we got this fight for you, but it's a 185." And I said yes immediately, and then I was on a plane the next day, rambling around to do medical stuff, and then I landed in Chicago, and did all got to experience, how fight week goes and all that. And then next thing you know, I was in the cage ready to fight. But it happened really fast. I didn't have a camp. So,
Right.
and it wasn't like I had the pressure of like sitting watching this guy, like, putting in like a long camp. Like, it was kind of like my mindset going into it was, listen, it's a fight's a fight. It doesn't matter what weight who it is. A fight's a fight.
Right.
I understand every time I step in the cage, I'm representing the United States Marine Corps. And I know stepping into the cage, I was a big underdog, and I'm fighting this undefeated Russian. And I was like, you know what? Who better else to call than a United States Marine in that situation? And I'm happy I got. And a lot of people didn't even know me going into the fight. I was a Marine.
Right.
That's something that I wanted people to know more. And but it just didn't happen like that. I went in there and I did my thing. He's trying to I fought like a Marine that night, and that's all I
Yeah.
could have done. Not my weight class, not an excuse, but to jump from 170 to 185 is pretty significant.
Yeah. And you beat the Russian, right?
Well, I did not.
Oh, you lost.
I lost
Okay.
that one. Yeah,
That's all right. Well, if he had you by 15 pounds, right?
I would give or take,
Yeah. Yeah. Weight,
but
the significant amount of weight for a fighter. So,
yeah,
so,
but
uh, so how does it work? Does the UFC permit if if the Marine Corps happen to call and say, "Hey, would love to have you have an EGA on your belt or what have you"? Do they permit that? Are you allowed to get a sponsorship?
I have no idea. I really don't know. I know that the Marines used to sponsor the UFC cage,
Right.
which is something I always thought was cool. I was like, oh my
Yeah.
god! But now I think it's the Air Force now or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, they sponsored the X Games for years as well, and they had all that. So you and I'll talk offline. We'll make some phone calls. We know who to talk to, so we'll get you. Would
Yeah.
love.
I
I'm
mean,
sure.
I know I got Dana White's permission for my next fight to walk out with the Marine Corps flag because
Yeah, nice.
I tried to my last fight, but they were like, no, it has to be a country's flag. And I was like, well, I was a Marine. Like, this is the Marine Corps flag.
Yeah,
Obviously I'm American. I have it on my thing here. I was like, but it'd be cool. And then Dana White was like, you could do whatever you want, man. So
yeah.
next time I'm walking out with that Marine Corps flag.
Well, we'll get you the right flag too to make sure that it's got the gold embroidery and everything else on it too. So when have you had any contact back either with Quantico or 3-6, some of your former Marines that we talked earlier? You served with my son on the baton, and he was talking you up. Have you gotten any calls from former Marines and the people on the chain of command that wanted you to come back and talk to some of the Marines that were looking at exploring fighting as a career?
Not anything like that yet. Obviously a lot of the Marines that I deployed with or like Marines that I've met, all my buddies and stuff, I talk to them whenever they message me or whenever I message them. Like, we're in group chats and stuff now, so that's great. Sometimes I'll have random Marines that I've never met in my life. They'll hit me up and tell me like, "Hey, like this is something I want to get into." It's
Yeah,
very inspiring and stuff like that. And I'll try. I always give the time of day to try to answer those if I see them. Because that's what it's all about, right? Is
right.
giving back to the Corps in any way you can. But if that's something, if the Marine Corps like chain of command or tells me to, hey, you're coming to Camp Lejeune to do this seminar or whatever, no questions asked. I'm gonna
Yeah.
I'm gonna go and do it.
Yeah.
So
Well, again, we'll make some calls for you. We know the right people to talk to. And all kidding aside, Eric, it's important because you know what it was like when you got out, and
for sure.
all of us dealt with it. A lot of times, you don't know what you want to do. You start off doing something, whether it's based on what you did as in your MOS or if you went to college or what have you. But you get out, and that first year or two can be brutal because you feel detached. You feel like you're not tethered to what it is that you're doing. So I think as you continue to progress through your MMA career with UFC and others, there are plenty of Marines that are going to want to talk to you about perseverance, right? Because
Yeah,
that's what, us graybeards, that when we're talking to all the youngsters that are coming out and even some of us that have to talk to each other, you got to remember those things you were taught as a Marine, like you said, first to fight and, all those leadership principles and everything else that you learn, but it's innate in you now. You don't recite it as if you were a Marine, but you remember that I'm not going to quit. I know what I'm representing now, and I got a huge EGA on my chest, my back, my arm, whatever. Especially you, because you're out there, and I don't know where you've got a tattoo. People know who you are, but then they see you fighting, so obviously they understand that you're a Marine. So there's a lot of pressure behind that. But I think if the invitations come, and you'll be pleased to see them. I'm sure there's plenty of people that are going to want to hear your story. Plenty of people.
yeah. You know,
Nope.
and I always tell people about, because they were always like, like, listen, I took my time, I made a plan, I set goals, I did all those things, and then, exactly what you said, like those leadership principles, and like, I took those into college. Like when I was going to school, I joined the Marine Corps when I was 17, so I got out when I was 21, turned 22, and started school. Like I was still a pretty fairly young dude for all my professors, and that's the reason I did good in college, because I'll tell you right now, I was not shit in high school when it came to grades. I just wasn't into it. I wanted to
Right.
be a Marine ever since I was little.
Yeah.
And then it does start, like I tell everybody, the Marine Corps made me the man I am today, because I was a little jerk off in high school.
Right.
Then the Marine Corps is what you make of it. If you take the Marine Corps seriously and you actually understand the lessons they're trying to present you, and you take them into everything you want to do in life, you'll crush your competition. It's not even close. When I step into the cage with another man, I tell my dad this because he always asks. He's like, you're such a calm, cool, like kid, but then like when you get into the cage, it's just something different. And I'm like, well, listen, like I know who I am when I step into that cage. I know I'm a United States Marine. I know this is what I'm. This is just another day in the office for me. A lot of these kids that I step in the cage with, they don't know who they are. They're trying to
Right.
find themselves in that cage.
Right.
And if you try to find yourself in front of a United States Marine in a cage, he's gonna have his way with you, and that's usually what happens.
Yeah, I'm sure that's that added factor of intimidation when they know they gotta lock horns with you. So have you had an opportunity to spar or fight any other military folks from around the UFC? I'm not sure how many there are.
No, there's not really a lot. Honestly, yeah, there's not really a lot of active UFC fighter. I think I'm the only one right now.
Right. Right.
So, I'm trying to I have plans in the future to start a little something to get more guys, more military guys in the UFC, but
Yeah.
right now I got to make a name. At the end of the day, I got to make a name for myself. I got to stay in the UFC. I got to win. I got to win the belt.
Yeah.
Those are all goals I've set that I got to accomplish, and then I could, when I'm making money to make a difference, I can make a difference. But right
Right.
now, it's still a little rough when you're the rookie. This is my rookie year in the
Yeah.
UFC, so
Well,
it still ain't shit.
you may be a boot, but you're already breaking barriers. I think you are the first Marine, if I'm not mistaken. Well, Stan was a Marine, right? He was a Naval Academy guy, I think. So for young Marines and others out there uh, around the country and around the world, what's the minimum age for UFC? Is it 18 or is it 21?
I think it's 18 is the minimum, but I mean, it's just so hard to get
Yeah.
into the UFC that young. A
Right.
lot of guys get in from like, I want to say, if you're lucky, you get in before you're 28, but a lot of guys get in from 28 to like 30. And then, they fight until whenever they can't fight no more. But
Right.
yeah, I think the average age of every UFC champion right now is like 32.
Right, right. Because the learning curve has got to be enormous those first
Yeah,
first few years, and you look back on your training when you were at Quantico compared to what it is that you're doing now, and it's got to be night and day.
yeah, I would say it's astronomical compared to what I knew back then.
Right. So did you finish college? Did you end up getting your degree?
Yeah,
And what was your degree in?
Homeland Security.
Okay, so you still got that whole security piece alive and well, and are you still in the reserves, or has that been a clean break for you?
No, I did the IRR. I actually extended that for a little bit, and then it ran out, and but I was just so close to being in the UFC, I didn't have time to really keep up with that. So
Yeah,
I did my time, and I'm done with it now.
yeah. Plus, you'd have to shave.
Yeah.
So, Nighttime Nolan, where did that name come from?
So, a bunch of my friends, we got drunk one night and we're thinking of nicknames, trying to be like, yo, what's your nickname going to be? Because you can't just go in there as Eric Nolan.
Yeah,
And I was like, yeah, all right, let's think about it. And one friend's name, we used to call him Nicky Nighttime. And then, he's like, what about Nighttime Nolan? And I was like, yo, it's pretty sick, actually.
there you
And then
go.
it just stuck,
Yeah,
It wasn't a crazy story, but, stuck with me.
yeah,
And it has a good ring to it.
yeah. It does. It does. It's all over your Instagram feed and all that. So it's good stuff. So Eric, you got a lot of people out there that are looking at the UFC. Dana has, I mean, the deals that have been arranged and what he's turned this organization into over the past 20 years is phenomenal. He himself has gone through a pretty impressive transition, as we were talking earlier, and he's got a big fight coming up at the White House next year. So I know your responsibility between now and then is to win, but what do we need to do to make sure that we get a United States Marine on that undercard for the White House fight?
You know, like I said, I'm a rookie, so I'm still new fish right now in a big pond. But I'll do whatever it takes to get on that card. I think you know it's it's a White House. The Marines guard the White House. You know,
Exactly.
and to fight in front of President Trump and all the Marines that are going to be standing there anyway, having one, even if I was the first fight in the night, having just one Marine that made it from being an active duty grunt, you know
Right.
active duty grunt that I grinded so hard and so long just to get into the UFC, and then this White House card comes out. It's just like it kind of feels like it's just meant to be,
Right.
you know
I agree.
like so I don't know. I don't have I don't have Dana White's number to call him and harass him, or else I probably would be and be like, "Hey Dana, listen, I know I'm new here,
Yeah.
but
Well, we know a few people that may have that number, so we're gonna promote on your behalf to make sure that we get some representation, because what you're doing is impressive. Now, Eric, if people want to support you, potentially want to be a sponsor, how do they get in touch with you? Do they get in touch with your manager? How does that work?
yeah, they would probably have to get in touch with my manager first, or just message me, and then I could, message the manager, and then they could work it out.
And we'll throw your info up at the end if you don't mind, and that way people
Yeah, of course.
can DM you directly. So you got some young Marines out there that are watching you. You got young men out there that are watching you, men and women too, because the UFC's got a pretty strong female card as well. What's the advice you would give them in starting out their career? Your path was rather unconventional. You didn't have a ton of prep time. What do you tell these young kids that are looking to get into the business?
Day by day, brick by brick, something I like to say, and having a bulletproof mindset. I would say that if you're going to start this career in fighting, there's going to be a lot of people that tell you that you should not do this. A lot of people, wait until you lose one fight. You
Right,
lose one fight, your family, everybody's going to be like, I don't know, like you're getting punched, not a lot of money in it in the beginning, but if it's
right,
something that your heart's really in, like it was for me, like, I had a reason to fight. I every single time I fought, I was fighting for the Marine Corps. So that was
there
my
you go.
reason, you know, and it'd be selfish of me, with all the Marines that are watching me to just, hang it up and give up when things went bad.
Right,
But you need a bulletproof mindset for that. You got to tune out. And then there's going to be job opportunities that come, like I could have been a cop, it was something I was very close to doing. And then I was like, I'm just not, I can't give up, and that's something that you got to have inside of yourself, and you got to take it day by day. It's MMA. There's so many aspects that go into it: wrestling, kickboxing, boxing, jujitsu. Like, then there's going to be days where you think that you're great at one thing, and then you spar somebody, and then you're like, damn, I suck at this. And then and you start freaking yourself out. You got to focus on it day by day.
indeed. Be a student of your profession, for sure,
Yeah. Be
for
a student
sure.
of the game, be humble, be a good person. I tell kids, I went back to my high school not too long ago, and I was talking to a bunch of kids, and I was like, I'm the most violent sport there is, and you got to be a good person. As much as I'm in there trying to render my opponent unconscious, like outside of the cage, you still got to be a good person. You still little things. Hold the door open for the old man walking if it takes you an extra 5 seconds to get your soda or whatever you're getting. Like,
Absolutely.
and always be willing to help and give back. And, because you never know what somebody else is going through.
Right. Indeed. Indeed. So our birthday is coming up next week. We're actually going to post this on the Marine Corps birthday. Where are you going to be this year?
I'm going to be at Philadelphia, Ton Tavern.
Ton Tavern, right? They got
I'll be there.
We had them on about a year ago talking about the spread, and they got a week-long celebration going on, if I'm not mistaken, and they got have you heard, they got the new building set up, and they got a whole big street party going on. So if I had the time to get up there, I would, but it's going to be impressive. Do they know you're coming? Do they know your UFC claim to fame and all that? Are they aware of that?
No, it's funny because every year since I moved back to Jersey, the there's like a family of Marines that, I grew up with.
Yeah.
We didn't join at the same time because he was a little younger than me, but we have like Marines from all over. We go to this guy's house and then we get buses to Philly. And
Oh, nice.
this is
Yeah.
actually my first time going to Philly because every single time that they've gone on the Marine Corps birthday, I've had a fight. So I couldn't drink. I would just go
Yeah.
there, hang out, and,
Yeah.
be jealous and watch my
Yeah.
brothers get drunk.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
and, because it's the Marine Corps birthday, it's not about me.
Right.
So we're just all in there in our Marine Corps stuff and being Marines, it's the Marine Corps birthday.
Yeah, they're excited. They put a lot of time and effort into the building, and I don't think it's done yet, but they got the streets all blocked off and everything else. They'll be fired up. I'll give them a heads up that you're coming. They'll be ready for you. They'll be ready for you.
Awesome.
So, Eric, what else? What else can we do to support you? Is there a other than your Instagram feed or what you have posted elsewhere? Are there any other links that we can go to kind of follow your path, watch your fight schedule, that type of thing?
I mean, honestly, you could navigate everything. I have a LinkedIn tree on my Instagram. So my Instagram's nighttime.nolan, and you could give me a follow and, message me. I'd usually get back to most people. And like I said, I ain't that big yet. So I take the time at night and I go through the messages and I try to get back to everybody. So,
Stay
any
home.
questions or anything, they could feel free. Ask. I'm an open book. So
Well, stay humble, brother, and don't change because it's served you well to date, and we're proud of you. We're proud to see you out there. We're going to follow you, and we're gonna circle back in about a year to see how things are going.
absolutely. And thank you for having me. You
My
know,
pleasure. My pleasure. I'm glad you're an inspiration, my friend. You don't realize it yet, and you don't have to be winning every fight to be a model for other people to emulate. You're a fine example of what a Marine or any individual should be doing when they leave the military and making their transition because you worked to get where you are, and you worked hard. Like you said, you had a plan for it and you stuck to it. And that's what a lot of veterans need to hear, and not just men and women that got out. There's a lot of veterans, been out for a while, even veterans my age, that they need to hear good stories, and you're doing well, and we're proud of you. So keep it up. We're thrilled to see you going.
thank you. It means a lot.
So there you have it, America. Eric Nolan representing your United States Marine Corps. He is a bona fide fighter within the UFC. We're going to track Eric as things continue to progress. And Eric, thanks again for literally showing us how to stay in the fight. And we will see you all next time on VetSum.